to the Fitness Business Podcast's first episode of The Value Proposition. I'm your host, Sal Pellegrino. If you've been in the industry for a while, chances are you've heard the name Sal Pellegrino. He's known for being a wonderful equipment salesman, trusted industry expert, speaker, and most notably being the friendliest person in the room. He's never burnt a bridge in his career and remembers every single person he meets. He connects people and counsels others when it comes to finding their way in the fitness industry. He's a man who embodies what it means to practice what he preaches and truly incorporates fitness into his daily lifestyle. When I started my career, I'd introduce myself and people would always say, "You're Sal's daughter." Yes, I am. I'm Sal Pellegrino, the very proud daughter of Sal, Senior Manager of Strategic Accounts for PRECOR, who we will have the pleasure of speaking with today. Dad, hello. Welcome to the first episode of The Value Proposition.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. And I am honored to be here. And congratulations on your new role with the Fitness Business Podcast. I'm thrilled for you and your team for what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. We're so excited. And to our listeners that are tuning in that are probably going, what is the value proposition? We created this show specifically for industry suppliers to showcase the value that they bring to health club owners and operators beyond just the product and service that they normally sell. So on today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Sal on the value proposition for going above and beyond as a supplier. If there is anyone qualified to speak on this topic, it's my dad. All right, Sal, start us off by telling our listeners how you came to work in the fitness industry. What was your first job?
First job, you ready for this? 1971. I was locker room attendant at the European Health Spa. And most of you people listening have no idea what that was. I was in Scarsdale, New York. I got bit by the health club bug when I was in high school, and it just took off. The best part about it is I was able to turn a passion into a career. So I'm very, very fortunate. So that started me off, got a degree in phys ed, got a master's degree, and came out of college laser focused on opening up a Nautilus Fitness Center. 22 years old, 1978, August, I started at Jefferson Valley Racket Club in New York and started the Jefferson Valley Nautilus, and I'll tell you, and my career just took off from that point. So from there, club owner 6 years, and then started in 1984 selling a product called Stairmaster. And that created my career path into on the supply side of the industry.
I love your story. And when I talk about you, I always say how passionate you are about your career. Were you always passionate about fitness, even as a young man?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you something. When I was in elementary school, I was the fattest kid in school. My nickname was Whale, and the phys ed teacher nicknamed me that. So how I went into phys ed, I'll have no idea. But that was a defining moment for me. And I vowed that once I got into 8th grade, I lost 60 pounds by exercising. Girls started talking to me. I made the basketball team, and it's been a life of fitness ever since.
One of my favorite stories. I love it. What would you say to a young person who has yet to find a way to connect their life's passion to a career path?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. But basically, everyone always says, do something that you love. If you pick the right job, the right path for you, you never have to work a day in your life if it's something that you really love doing. But, I'll tell you, in the last 3 months, I probably have had 15 phone calls with people that want to come into the fitness space. And it's very interesting. I think there's an attraction to our business. It's people-focused, people-centric. It's a job that you feel good doing every day. Every day I'm helping people. Whether you're a fitness director, a personal trainer, a group exercise person, manager, supplier, whatever you are, you're helping people every day. And that's pretty rewarding at the end of the day to go home and say, you know what, I did some really good things today.
That's great advice. Looking back on your career, what advice would you give to yourself at 25 years old?
Oh, wow, 25. Man, that was a long time ago. Hope I can remember that far back. At 25, I'll tell you exactly where I was. Owned 2 health clubs, employed about 90 employees. And what advice would I give myself? Have incredible confidence in your abilities. And when the going gets tough, dig your heels in and get tougher. So that's the advice I would give, because I think that a lot of times people do not value and maybe it's not a self-esteem issue, but you may not know the true value of what you're worth. And I think that's something that if I had a mentor back then, that would have been something that if someone shared that with me, it probably would have helped me during a tough negotiation phase.
Maybe that's why you're such a good mentor.
Maybe. Good point, Sarah.
All right. Why don't you tell our listeners about your history with and your current role at PRECOR?
Well, PRECOR has been a great company. Let me back up a little bit. Started with Stairmaster, and I met a bunch of great people. And one of them went over to PRECOR, and that was Chris Torgler. He is my current boss. Chris, understood, that we had incredible work ethic at our team at Stairmaster. When Chris went to PRECOR, I think he brought over about 11 guys that were there initially. And that's how I ended up working for PRECOR. So it had a lot to do with relationship. I knew they had a great product because they just had introduced a product called the elliptical cross trainer. And many listeners may not know, but PRECOR invented that category over 26 years ago. So it always helps to work for a company that has a unique product. I refer to it as a home run product. I had one at Stairmaster, very lucky to be there for 14 years selling that. Come to PRECOR, I was there 13 years on my first stint, and then went away for 8 years, and now I'm back, and I'm what they call the boomerang team at PRECOR, because it's an employee that leaves but ends up coming back. And actually at our sales meeting, the first year I came back, I've been back 4 years now, Rob Barker, our president, called me up, and I just said, man, look at this. I'm getting in trouble on my first sales meeting. And he goes, Sal, I have something for you. It's a boomerang. And I have this beautiful wood boomerang that says, Sal Pellegrino, member of the PRECOR Boomerang Club. To come back, it felt like I was coming back home. So it's just a great organization. Great people, great products, great culture. And you know what? One of our things, we have a thing called the PRECOR Creed, and one of the tenets of the creed are do things right, not necessarily first, and so do the right thing. It's very, very critical, and I always fell in love with that PRECOR Creed, and I think it's something that we all live every day. Treat people the way you like to be treated, and I have to tell you that by me owning a health club, it has helped me so much being an advisor to people, my clients. So I understand what customers go through. I understand the stresses of dealing with the day-to-day business operations, people, competitors, and it's helped me immensely in my career. And I'm just thrilled to be back. And again, here at PRECOR every day, you know what? I've had tough days, but I've never had a bad day. And that's kind of how I explain how fortunate I am to be with a great company in PRECOR.
I love the part about the PRECOR Creed and doing the right thing, because you definitely live that every single day. So you're at the right place. I love it. Dad, what does it mean to you to truly sell something you believe in? You've talked about believing in yourself. You've talked about believing in the company you work for. You talked about having a fun product. But what about a product that you genuinely just believe in?
Well, you know what? If you really believe in a product, you don't have to sell it. You exude emotion, you exude enthusiasm. When I came to PRECOR, people had no idea what the heck the elliptical was, but I knew it was a great product. And, when you start out a product, you have to seed it. There's a thing called product demonstrations. You're renting a van, you're driving around doing it. And so I knew that this product would help out my customers. So if you have a product that you know is going to solve a problem or be a solution for somebody, and they're going to benefit from it, boy, oh boy, it's not working. You're selling a great thing. So I'm a firm believer that you got to have a product that you believe in. Hopefully you use it. There's a great saying. I heard this years ago. Are you a product of the product? So, if you can use your product that you're selling yourself, and it feels good, it benefits you, it's a lot easier for you to sell it. So I believe you just have to have that passion for the product. Otherwise you come off just, being that term sales guy, which you don't want to be.
Ooh, what a nasty term. All right. So speaking of being a product of the product, you're teeing me up pretty well here. Some of our listeners may not know this, but Sal has a pretty sweet collection of fitness equipment himself. So, Dad, why don't you tell us about PFI and what that means to you?
Well, I love PFI. Poor Sarah. She had no idea what garages were used for when she was growing up. From day one, two-car garage was loaded with equipment, and our car was parked outside ever since she went to college. So, but anyway, years ago when I was at Stairmaster, one of the principals was a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Orlando. And I went to visit him in Orinda, California. And I went to his house, and he had a two-car garage with probably 22 pieces of Nautilus machines in it. And I worked out there, and I said, Nick, you work out every day and you roll out of bed in your gyms in your garage. From that moment, and I was probably 28, 29, I said, before I die, I'm going to have a great fitness center. And sure enough, if you focus on something and you believe in it and you're laser focused, you can make it happen. And so that's why I did it. And I also had a hard time with time. We all have a problem with time management. And there's a term that I heard years ago on CBS News, and they did a story, and it was called Time Poverty. And to this day, I think I'm working harder now than I've ever worked. And I think people, you have to figure out when they can work out and how they can work out. And because of my travel schedule and flying, I figured if I have a great gym at the house, no matter what, I'm going to always get my 2 good workouts in a week or 3 or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, your mom got into it, you got into it, our neighbors got into it. And when we moved, our neighbors were a little upset that they were missing out their key to the Pellegrino Fitness Institute. But it's been wonderful, and I would never trade it. And some people have fancy cars, some people have all kind of crazy watches and things. And hey, I love fitness equipment, so I spend my money on it.
That's great. And I know, speaking of me never really knowing what a garage was truly used for, why don't you show our listeners and viewers your my artwork from 7 years old? Yeah. So Sarah, they had like a "What does your father do for a living" art project in Montgomery Elementary School. And Sarah wrote, can you see this, Sarah? I can. I'll read it. So it says, it was a Father's Day project, and we had to draw what our dad did and then write something. So I said, my dad trains people to work out. And then if you look at that machine, look how much hair my dad has, first of all. Clearly this is an old picture. But then it's a PRECOR machine. It says workout smarter PRECOR, and the handlebars are hearts. So I don't know. We might have to submit that idea.
Well, I'll have to do an introduction to the head of product development when we're done with this talk. Anyway, great thing. It's been in the Pellegrino Fitness Institute on the wall since that point, and obviously near and dear to my heart.
Now that our listeners have learned more about you as a person and your history in the fitness industry, let's talk about one of your other favorite topics, sales. What are some characteristics of a great salesperson?
Oh boy. All right. Great question. And if you got a few minutes, it's going to take a while. All right. So number one, I think as a salesperson, to have success in selling, it's a couple things. Number one, I think it goes back to finding the product or the service that makes sense, that you feel good about, that you're passionate about, and then that by you selling that product, it's going to help somebody. So that's number one. Underneath that is the actual day-to-day skills, the skill set for a salesperson. So what does that mean? I think you have to know product knowledge, I think is very key. I think professional development is important, ongoing, reading all the time. Some qualities of a salesperson is I spend a lot of time the preparation before my sale. Okay, so I want to know who I'm meeting with. And I have an outline. To this day, I've been doing this ever since I started selling, is I always have an outline of what I'm going to accomplish in that meeting. And I always have my points. And when I go now, I type up a few copies of it. I don't know if it's going to be one person. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 5. But I do it, and people say, what do you have there? And I say, you mean you actually typed up an outline? I said, yeah. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss these points. I guess there's a bunch of P's in selling. Persistence. And I always like perspiration. You got to hustle. You got to get out there. You got to move. You got to be with the customer. you gotta meet with them. You have to help them with their business. You have to follow up. And I always tell people, the easiest part is getting a sale. The hardest part is following up on all the promises that you made ongoing. And I always prided myself saying, hey, look, other people you may see them more times before the sale, but you're going to see me a hell of a lot more times after the sale. Because I try to, once I sell to you, you're kind of stuck with me for a while, so in a good way. So I think that preparation, hard work, product you love, consistency, and be nice and follow up and do the things that you say you're going to do. That's just so important. If you do all the right things, you're going to be very fortunate to build incredibly solid foundations and relationships. If you ask me what's the best part of my career, is the friends and the loyal customers that have stayed with me since 1980s, latter 80s, early 90s. I have customers that I've been selling to for 34 years. Think of that, now they got grandkids. Speaking of grandkids, anyway, but I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
Anyway, but it's I'm building friends, and I feel like I'm an extension of their business. I treat their business like it's mine, and I think that served me very, very well.
I will validate what you just said, because growing up in your home, there were customers that mom and I thought were family friends first and then customers, right? So it's that ability to just make everyone feel like a friend. It's really important.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you bet.
Thank you for sharing those. What, in your opinion, is the true value of an in-person sales call versus on the phone or, let's say, virtually?
So let's go back to January, okay? I think it's important. FaceTime is always critical. If I compare it to a phone call, I can't judge the body language, okay? With Zoom calls and things, you kind of pick up on it, but there's nothing better than face-to-face. There's nothing better than when I walk through a facility and actually get a sense for the room, sense for the space, talk to multiple people, multiple influencers at that particular site. So those are things that you may not get in some other means of communication. So again, don't waste their time. And I always ask people, how much time do you have? Okay? Because, today, remember going back to time poverty, right? Those guys are busy too. And if it's an executive, they got a million things to do. We're all doing the job of 2 and 3 people anymore. We are. So I'm trying to be very, very sensitive and respect everyone's time. I think that's important. But again, that face-to-face interaction, you can't beat it. Judging, what their reaction is, body language, you can tell a lot by that. And then if you're, I always love this. How much time do I have? You have 30 minutes. And 2.5 hours later, we're still there, So again, you got to impress them quick. All right. So I will tell you that. And hopefully, you have a good, a late morning meeting. Do you have time for lunch? A late afternoon meeting? Do you have time for dinner? Okay. And kind of learn as much as you can about that person. And the other side of it is, preparation before that. You can learn so much. LinkedIn, Google a person. Today, we didn't have those things in the beginning of my career. And I always wonder, how the heck did we do it without cell phones? And we used to dial pay phones. We had little credit card things. We'd dial in a number and call from the sides of interstates. But anyway, it worked. And it worked because we did all the basics. We did all the right things.
And I know you want to talk about post-COVID, and that I want to talk about that too. So, but first, I want to know how you have supported your customers through COVID, and then how your sales process, face-to-face meetings, things like that, how that changes post-COVID.
Right. Okay. First of all, we're from New York originally, Sarah, and I lived through September 11th. Okay. And that experience helped me. When COVID hit, the first thing I thought about was September 11th. I have a poster in my office. It's the Twin Towers. And I vowed I would never forget that experience on how it affected the psyche of our country, the customers, my dear customers in the Metro New York area, Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania. I mean, it affected everyone very profoundly. And so I knew early on that when COVID hit, it wasn't about me trying to sell or me trying to make money. It was, what can I do to help my customers through the most difficult experience that they've ever been through and that I've ever been through in my lifetime. I mean, I compare this to World War II or something in terms of how it affected countries. I mean, it's amazing how it affected a generation. So right away I said, I want you to do everything you can to be a resource for your customers and help them. So what I decided to do is, obviously, I think it was Club Industry that did the first webinar. And I sat on it and I went, oh my God, this was brilliant. And then all of a sudden, everyone else caught on to it, and then Rex did it, and Ursa did it, and everyone else started doing them. And then I said, who is coordinating all this material? And then I just said, okay, I'm going to start summarizing some things. And then I came up with my little weekly video. And this is week 9 is coming up this Sunday, so make sure you and your listeners tune in. But anyway, I mean, this thing has just gone great, because I've found is that a lot of people don't have the time to sit down, because it's a lot of time. I mean, I'm probably doing 6-7 webinars a week, and there's a lot of content. So I figured if I took the time, I'm a great note taker. I'm the fastest 2-finger typist on the planet, and I put a lot of time in this thing every week. And then my clients love when I send them these things, these note outlines. You know, like if you were a front desk manager, I would send you the webinar that I did on staff training. You know, if you are a fitness director, I'd send you the one on preventative maintenance and cleaning and all that. So I think that those are some really, really, helpful things. You know, and then the other thing I did is I wrote an article early on. After week 2 of webinars, I put my old club owner hat on, and I said, what would Sal do if this was me? How would I be prepping to come out of this? And I wrote an article, how to open your facility and things to think about. And it got tremendous reviews again. So again, share what you know, do that little extra effort. But at the end of the day, if you do the right thing to help people, it usually comes back to help you. Can I go back to answer the question about COVID, the meetings, using Zoom or using Microsoft Teams?
What does that look like?
Oh, man. Well, hey, come on. I'm in my 60s, right? I'm an old guy. Teach old guy new tricks. But thanks to you, my IT department, you've kept me current with technology. And I said, I'm going to learn this thing. I'm going to learn how to do it. And I was on a call with Audrey from the Greater Boston JCC, and she goes, Sal, let me send you something. And it was one of the people in the organization, in the JCC Association, had an article, and it was Zoom for Dummies. And I read the thing, and I went, hey, I can do this, And now I love it. So, and now I'm thinking, okay, how much money am I saving now? Do I need to travel as much as I did? Can I do certain things a little better? And you know what? It's very, very interesting. So now I ask, Sal, let's get together. If I get an introduction, would you like to do a phone call or would you like to do virtual call? And about half the times people say virtual. So again, I love seeing reaction. Remember I told you about that? And that was the big advantage. So technology has been a very, very cool transition for me. And as you know, last Sunday, I stopped into the Gold's Gym in Fuquay Arena. It was the first time I was in a health club in 13 weeks. It felt really good to go back. So keep that in mind, all the club owners out there. If you have an open jet, think of how exciting it's going to be for those members to come back, and do everything you can to make them feel safe and create that experience. But I felt it when I came back, and it was very powerful.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's really helpful as some states have gone back and as people are preparing to get back to their travel schedules. So thank you for your insight there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Talk to us in regards to follow-up and just some sales crafts here, if you will. What is the most unique way you follow up with somebody, either after a meeting or after a sale is complete?
Handwritten notes.
Okay.
I've been doing it since they invented the pen. But people are stunned when you get them. That's a unique way. I think it's important to send a summary to them of what we talked about. Thank you so much for, I usually do that in the hotel that night or the next morning before I leave. So if I'm traveling, that's a nice thing. Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for your time today. It was great. I can't wait to help you convert your racquetball court to a spin studio.
Yeah.
These are the next steps. And it just, remember, they're real busy. And then you're going to set some guidelines am I going to do a floor plan for you? Am I going to send you an equipment quotation? Am I going to trade in your older product? There's a lot of work that has to happen. So as a sales professional, you really have to have a bunch of things in order.
We talked about you remaining a student of the industry. And like you said, I have seen that in you the past 3 months, so much more. You're always a student of the industry, but so much more these past few months, right? So why is it important to stay in tune with the industry that you know and love? Like, what would you say to someone that's not reading trade articles, that's not on these webinars? What would you tell them?
And the industry and information changes so rapidly. And, now, competitors are smart. They're changing things quickly. I got to be on top of what they're doing. And what's amazing to me is customers, how smart they are. Consumers, how smart they are. I have people, because obviously we all sold a lot of home product in the last 12 weeks. You know what the busiest, the most valuable product in the industry was in the last 12 weeks? A dumbbell or a kettlebell. But, everything's gone. People couldn't get equipment because their gyms were closed. So again, consumers, they know so much and they're well read in the internet and just whatever is out there. So again, you have to always take that time to be positive, to keep up on trends, keep up on, and actually today, not just trends on our industry, it's consumer trends. The how quickly technology now is going to be accepted. How many customers have you talked to, Sarah, or friends that you have in the industry that did not have a streaming platform and they got thrown into COVID? Oh my God, we got to do something, right? And so, that's powerful stuff. So again, I think this acceleration of acceptance of technology has been huge. And I think that's critical. So it's not only your craft or your industry, but it's general trends. I think I'm watching this and I just think you have to, keep your mind full and stay educated and stay current. You got to be current. God, you can't operate the way you did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. If you are a dinosaur, so.
I think that goes for operators and suppliers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will tell you this. So many people are saying to me, Sal, thank you so much for the tips for the week. This is awesome. It's the best 5 minutes of my week, or my weekend. And that always makes me feel good. But I just know how busy everybody is and they got a lot of things on their plate. And so if I can make their life a little bit easier, I've done a good thing that day,
That's great. But you and I spoke earlier this week about a lesson that you learned from Jeffrey Gitomer, King of Sales. I know you love his books and his seminars. We've been together. Share that lesson with our listeners. What did you learn from him about taking your career to the next level?
Okay. 2005. Okay. And I go to our national sales meeting and I'm at PRECOR and Chris Torgler my boss is always willing to invest in professional development. At the time, Larry Domingo was his national sales manager, and those two brought Jeffrey Gitomer to our sales meeting, and it was great. And I see this guy wearing kind of a unique looking guy wearing a bowling shirt, and it says sales department on it. And I went up to him and I said, let me go up, say hello, Jeffrey. I'm Sal Pellegrino. Nice to meet you. I know nothing about you, but anyway. I've been doing this for 23 years. What can I take away? What can you show me after 23 years? Because I'm pretty damn good at what I do. He goes, are you published? And I went, no. Are you speaking at national conferences? I said, no. He goes, you know what? You suck. You better sit down and listen to what I have to say. And I laughed my head off because right away I knew I was going to love this guy. That's a true story. Anyway, let's fast forward, okay? I go back home, I get sick. I don't know if you remember when I was in the hospital, I was in ICU for 4 days. And I got very sick and I was very lucky to have a great doctor save my life. And I had to start that year 5 weeks in the hole. I took the Little Red Book of Sales. I took his saying was his lecture was how to make this your best year ever. That was his title. And I followed those things. And one of them was speak at a national conference. And guess what was growing like crazy back then? Planet Fitness. And in 1 week, I had 6 customers call me, Sal, tell me about Planet Fitness. And I knew about them, but I didn't know them because I didn't sell to them. And I said, well, you know what? Let's do a class trip. I took them in the car and we worked out at one. And all of a sudden another guy called me, and so then I came up with a presentation, how to handle low-cost competitors. I did it at Club Industry and I did it at Ursa. And it was standing room only the first time I did that. And I just said, God dang it, Jeffrey, you were good. So what do? I wrote a thank you note to Jeffrey Gitomer. Jeffrey, I just want you to know, I'm the guy that's thought you couldn't help me. And I just want you to know that I followed your things to the T and I was 190% above goal this year. Thank you very much. So, I had one of those, and I think also, but anyway, that I took that to heart. And, when COVID hit, I wrote an article, and you know how popular that was on LinkedIn. I don't know how many, last time I looked, it was like 8,000 views. But I thought of Jeffrey. Are you published? Because I got very good at presenting, and I love presenting. I speak 8 or 10 times a year at various events. But I wanted to get back and write an article.
Well, we can't wait to see what your next topic to speak on may be. And
yep.
I just want to summarize 2 really key points that Sal just brought up. Speaking, writing. Huge ways to go above and beyond as a supplier right now. So keep that in mind. We're all learning a lot. It's a different time for everybody. So make sure, put pen to paper, put yourself on a video, and really share that information. It's a great point. So we're going to pivot a little bit. And I don't think you know that I've done this, but I reached out to some of your customers that I know personally as well and asked them, why you're the best, why, ways you go above and beyond. So one fun thing was that you are able to provide demographic information and reports to certain clubs and customers to help them make really informed decisions. So I know that data is super important, but why is that so insightful for these owners? And what's your data source? Where's it coming from?
Yeah, so, obviously, today it's a very competitive market, okay? You can buy products from 5, 6 different companies, and it's always tough. And, every year I reinvent myself. What did I do wrong last year? What can I do better? What did I do right? And what can I do better, right? I do that every year over Christmas time. I always do that. To me, demographic information is really critical. The one thing I find out is that most owners, they haven't done a demographic analysis or manager since they opened. So they're operating, they don't know that there may be a transition in demographics in their neighborhood, in their town, their city, okay? They may not know. So for example, if I see that 20% of the population are 55 plus, and the guy's gonna do all kind of free weight areas and all this, I'm saying, dude, hold on 1 second. I'm a millennial, I got all the money. Okay, make sure, don't forget about me, okay? So that's always a great thing. And our marketing department is very, very good. And this is a service that they provide. It's very, very high value. And again, got to separate yourself. Do those things that are above and beyond. I sell widgets. I sell products. I sell strength. I sell cardio. I sell spin bikes. I sell network fitness. I sell touchscreen consoles. But when I sit down and I say, look, before we talk about my products, what you need, let's talk about what's the makeup of your club. And you know what, Mr. Customer? Let me show you some research that I did on your location. Now I'm not a sales guy. What have I become, sir? Become an advisor. And that is a very, very, very powerful thing. And what's good is today, I have a few franchise customers that they're trying to sell their franchise to prospects. And that's something that they take with them. That's pretty powerful. And now it puts me in front of them. So it's a pretty compelling case of going above and beyond and being value added and separating myself from a competitor and being really more of an advisor. Yeah. Because I'm an industry advisor. And then you trust me, and people buy from people they like and they trust. Okay. And so those are all those things. That's a great example one of those, going the extra mile.
That's fantastic. Another point that was brought up was your help with 3D mapping. So tell us more about that service and how operators are using that for their equipment planning.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's really floor plan design, okay? And in the past, we always did 2D floor plans. And now with the development and technology and how sophisticated the CAD software program is, I can do a floor plan for you, and I can take you through a 3D walkthrough of each room. So now I can design the room with the help of my customer. So in the past, I would have to go out, take measurements, do this, do that, come back, draw. This is what I recommend. Travel back, get on an airplane, go see them again. Now I can do this virtually. So it's pretty darn cool. And then when you can do the 3D walkthrough, the customer can say, oh, I don't like that dumbbell rack there. Can we move that? So it's very cool. So that 3D, it helps on the design side, number one. More importantly, you get the sale, I hope, right? Once you get the sale, now it's time for you to help them get their members excited. Or if it's a brand new facility, help them with their pre-sale area. And when you get this 3D design and you have them blow it up, and it's a big wall in their pre-sale area, and now their salespeople can go up and take people on a tour. Now it's really, really, really good. Now let's take it to the last 3 months, right? When I did that article on reopening your facility, the things to think about, I put in samples of I did a spin room, I did a free weight area, and I did a selectorized area, is how I would design it with social distancing in mind. And that got a lot of attention and got a lot of play. And so I think today, if I was selling you 25 treadmills, I knew 25 treadmills could fit in. And if I was delivering in 2 months or next month, we don't know how long these restrictions are going to be. We don't know if there's going to be another spike with this thing. So I think that now I would probably sell you 14 or 15 treadmills, space them out, but run the electric for 25. So that down the road, you can, as capacity is needed, you can build up. So again,
that's a great point. I'm glad you brought up about the wiring. Sal, talk to us about how being a club owner has made you such a great supplier.
All right. I know exactly what the club owner's thinking about. I've been there, okay? I know what it's like to do a grand opening. If you're missing product, if products are late and I'm advertising we're opening June 15th and you show up June 20th, I know what that feels like because I've had that happen, okay? So again, knowing what it's like from a service standpoint, understanding to get everything in written form. No more handshakes, okay? You're going to give me 3 years parts and labor. I want to make sure I have that in writing. So again, understanding exactly, experiencing service level, delivery level, quality level, and then handling problems after the sale 3-4 years down the road. I know what that's like. So it's always helped me to always make sure that you take those service calls first. Take those seriously. Because if you take care of your customers, they'll take care of you.
That's great. And just going off of that point, one of your other customers, just basically, they said very nice things, but so many of them brought up how trustworthy you are. And I want you to speak to that because you mentioned it earlier, salesperson, ew, ick, like that word. And I always used to say, who before us ruined that name? Like, when did that become a thing? So why is it important to be trustworthy for the long run, not just get a quick sale? What does that mean to you?
Well, if for you to have longevity in selling, you have to get return business. If you do the right thing, if you follow up on your promises, if you deliver, if they trust you, there's nothing better than that. Okay. So that trust, remember I said earlier, people buy from those they like and they trust. So you can be a very gregarious guy and slick Willie. And if you don't deliver, you're toast. Okay, because guess what? Customers are tough today. All right, buyers are smart. They've seen it all. You know what I mean? They come back. I get calls about other products. Sal, what do you think of this? And I give them my honest opinion. I never bash a competitor product, but if I have a definite opinion or things to consider, there's nothing better when I get those calls. So
that's great. So what has PRECOR done to prepare customers for health clubs to reopen? I mean, we've spoken about equipment, spacing, virtual tours, things of that nature. Are there any tips or resources for our listeners?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah. So 2 things. PRECOR, visit www.precor.com Bounce Back Faster. It's about a 12 or 14 page guide, everything from proper cleaning supplies to training, to spinning, to setting up your room, to staff, communicating with your customers, engaging with your clients with technology. Priva is our network system, and we have a Priva Fit. We have a partnership with Sony and Advigem. And so this is an incredible tool that's available to our customers and their staff. So again, that Bounce Back Faster, PRECOR.com/Bounce Back Faster, great guide. Now, there's one other thing in there that's really critical, is you can make a homemade cleaning solution. And I'm telling you, folks, everyone is buying supplies. Everyone is buying wipes. Everyone is buying disinfectant. Guess what? When the economy opens up, there's going to be a shortage of this stuff. So that fact of these home brew cleaning supplies for equipment is going to be a cool thing. And that's in this guide. So, what products to use. And make sure that, you got to be very careful about that. You can't put these caustic chemicals on screens and on plastics and things like that. So our tech team did a great job on that aspect of it.
I like that. That's thinking ahead right there.
Yeah. And that was out weeks and weeks ago. It was very smart of them. Yeah.
That's great. Sal, at the end of every workday, what makes you proud to represent PRECOR?
Remember I said early on, I've had tough days. I've never had a bad day. Yeah. I don't think of it as work. I'm selling to people that I'm friends with. I have respect for them. They have respect for me. When they got a problem, they know I'm going to fix it. So, right, when I have a problem, and this is what, this collaboration, you learned that at the UNC Keenan Flagler Business School, right? I always used to like when you said, yeah, Dad, we're doing collaborative learning today. When I have a problem with my customer, and if I say, hey, look, I can't fulfill your whole order, but I can do this. When I call them, we will fix it together. We'll come up with a solution. I have a problem and I need your help. And I get that to this day. Sal, I need help with something, and it may not necessarily be PRECOR. So again, I think that the deep, strong relationships is something that I just love. And then, working with people that you respect and admire and trust. Watching our senior leadership through this whole challenging time here, Rob Barker, our president, Doug Johns, head of North and South America, in charge of that business segment. These guys are so good. They care about their people. We're all making tough decisions, but I respect them greatly. Working with Chris Torgler, Al Rousseau, the team on our national account team, you know them all. Allison Porter, Clay. These are great people. I just love the relationship that we have and the cohesion that we have, that we all bring together, and it's great. And it goes back to our creed. They all live the creed, so it's kind of cool. Very blessed and happy to be here. So.
That's great. Well, thank you for everything you've shared with us today. I do want to wrap up with where our listeners and viewers can find you. I know you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn. We'll share your email. Does that about cover it?
Yeah, sal.pellegrino@precor.com. And I love cell phones, right? So 984-289-9426. Out of town, call collect. Remember collect phone calls?
Remember hanging up on you when you tried to.
Yes, I remember that. That's another webinar for you. So anyway,
all right.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I enjoyed this immensely. Thank you. Absolutely. Very proud of you, and wish you lots of success with you and the team at the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you so much, Sal. Thanks for joining us today. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap up our very first episode of The Value Proposition. Dad, thank you for sharing your insight, or in our family, as we like to say, Sal's secret sauce. And I know we all cannot wait to hear more from you. And everyone be sure to tune into his weekly videos. They can catch you on Sundays, right?
Yep.
Facebook, LinkedIn. So be sure to tune into those. They're very, very insightful as we all go back to work, open the doors, and get the industry back up and running. And Dad, happy Father's Day. I love you. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks, baby. And hey, by the way, Father's Day is coming up, so what are we doing?
I know, golfing, dinner.
Golfing, big bike ride, go up to the mountains. We got to do something,
That's right. You still have to put air in my bike tires, though. Didn't do that yet.
You got to get it out of storage first.
True.
All right, Sarah.
Well, thank you all. See you on the next episode of The Value Proposition. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.